You know, I wonder if this will resonate with. There are a lot of people who say they like the Assassin's Creed series because they like the history that's in those games.
Yeah.
I actually personally like Assassin's Creed games for the gameplay, which is kind of why I think I personally stopped playing them, is because the gameplay was so similar that I got like drowned out.
Sure.
Do you think like for the people who really like the history components that this will have the same appeal?
I think so, especially because World War One is very much a underrepresented time period and setting.
Especially in games.
Especially in games, but in, I would say, media as a whole.
Did you play Valiant Hearts?
Yeah, I played Valiant Hearts. That's one of the only games I can think of. Yeah.
It did a really great job of representing World War One, and so far this is too. I'd really like to see trench warfare. That's my one thing. I really want to see stuff with planes, but it seems like all the stuff that we're seeing is in the game. Yeah. I like that it's giving us that amount of variety. Of course, this is the horse level. Very pro horse. Stab that man. So I have to ask. We've touched on this a little so far in the stream, but do we think that Battlefield, going back in time or going back to historic roots, is that the right thing? Did they make the right move?
Absolutely. It differentiates itself from
Call of Duty,
from Titanfall,
even technically from Gears of War, which is using robots this time around a whole lot. I think it differentiates and from everything else coming out this year, but it also differentiates itself from the rest of the franchise.
Seriously.
I think I want to say.
But again, brings it back to its roots, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Battlefield's come a super long way, and we have seen a lot of different time periods covered in the Battlefield franchise, and they've done a pretty good job of all of them. So I had no doubt that this game would pull off the historical aspect very well.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a little worried by how, I don't know, like, how do you make the, oh, gee, it's on fire. How do you make the time period mechanically interesting? But I think they have.
How do you think they've done that?
By sort of shooting away from necessary realism.
Yeah, that's totally true. Like, this weapon, you're reloading it, it doesn't take as long as it probably would as a bolt action. It's still taking longer than I think something in probably this year's Call of Duty might take.
Sure.
But they've taken that into consideration. We also really like that we have one of the weapons we were using at a bayonet on the end, so they've taken the interesting parts of the gameplay, or interesting parts of the historical aspects, and put it into the gameplay in ways that aren't tedious, whereas those wars probably would have been horribly tedious. But there's a lot of variety in here that we haven't seen yet, like trench warfare, and planes, and
Actually getting into tanks.
yeah, tanks. So I feel like it's also just very broad. There's a lot of bases that they can cover. There's a lot of ground that they can cover. After this, where do you think you'd want to see Battlefield go?
I mean, honestly, I think if by going back to World War One, you sort of have to. You can't. The next year, you can't jump ahead 150 years.
Yeah, you can't just go back to space.
I think you go back to World War Two.